Gold mining may look very careful and serious, but even the most skilled miners make mistakes from time to time. Miners have had their fair share of ups and downs, from small mistakes that are easy to miss to big ones that cost a lot of money and make team members angry. Come with us as we look into the most stupid parts of the gold rush, putting the million-dollar dredge down. The dredge owned by Tony Beets sank for the second time in 6 weeks. He was told to go down and check on the dredge, even though it was his day off. What Tony saw when he got there could have been better. That machine held a lot of money, and it was just sitting there. It wasn't a happy moment. It looked like the team knew how bad things were, but they didn't know where to begin. The issue had to be fixed, but it was extra hard because the machine had to work by the time Tony got back. They were working on the pontoons to get rid of the water and get the dredge to float again. They thought something was broken. The pontoons quickly filled with water. Knowing how bad things were getting, one of the team members just turned around and signed, saying that Tony and Kevin would not be happy with this. When they tried to fix things quickly, there was too much water in the pontoons, so they just tried to lighten the load to get rid of the weight. They were sure that the boss would not be happy with them because the company loses about $1,000 an hour when the digger is not working. In the end, that's a lot of cash. They set up 6 pumps to drain the water to fix the problem with the pump that was sinking, but they knew they were losing. They didn't even believe the pumps could do the job. Mike really helped them out by getting a strong pump that could move 3,000 liters of water per minute. After fixing the pump, they left it to do its job. They remembered that $1,000 went by every hour. They had been pumping for water for 12 hours and spent $12,000 on it. They finally pumped the water out of the pontoons. They needed to figure out why the digger sank in the first place. When Roger Redball looked at the dredge and saw that the doors were open, it was a big surprise. The team had been working on their own problems and trying to get through the cut. They realized that this wasn't a natural or technical failure, but rather an error made by a person. Because the doors were open, sand and water could get into the pontoons and cause the dredge to sink. The whole thing was their fault. When Tony and Kevin got back from the sale, they did what they were supposed to do and asked what happened. The mine boss still wanted to know why the doors were left open, even after he knew what had happened. It turned out that the night shift team was to blame. They weren't looking at the digger. Now that the pontoons were fixed, Tony didn't want to point the finger at anyone. He just wanted to turn the dredge around and use it again. Again, the groundwater and water from the holding pond made the dredge float. They were getting ready for the next step. She and her team showed that they were ready, and they asked Mike right away how to move the dredge. Kevin told them to work quickly so Jason wouldn't be able to start digging in the new area. The dredge was going to be turned 90 degrees, which would make the tailings line swing over the road. Careful steps were needed for this. They looked and saw that the back end was pretty close to the shore. With a very important moment coming up, the team knew they had to make some tricky moves to get the dredge through a tough spot. They were hoping that they would be able to make the turn. Even though there might be some problems, they were happy and glad when the dredge was finally in the right place because everything went as planned. When the turn went well, the team took a look at what had happened and was happy with how things turned out. Now that the dredge was ready to start getting gold again, they were excited about the chance to get some prizes. The bucket's noise showed that things were going well, and everyone on the team was feeling good and hopeful about what they were doing. The night shift crew did something really stupid that almost damaged Tony's dredge. But what a new driver did to a truck was even worse. The whole truck was almost destroyed, almost making an engine burst. After 11 weeks of digging, Tony had brought in more than 1,000 ounces of gold. But he wasn't completely happy. There had to be more made. In 2 of his cuts, the 8-acre blue cut and the 9-acre cold cut, he was trying to catch Paradise Hill's sought-after white Chanel pay run. But the weather had been bad for him for the past 6 weeks. He was back in the cold cut, where there was still a lot of money to be made. To make up for the time he lost, Tony planned to sluice day and night for the first time this season to double his output. 3 new drivers were brought in to help the team because there was a lot of work to be done. The 3 guys were way too excited about the season. They thought it was great to be over there trying to work off the ladder and hoping to work in the yard and see some real good. It was better than seeing them with fancy jewelry on. They had to show Tony they had the right skills before they could work the night job. The boss had a lot of faith in them. He told them that if they were smart and wanted to learn, they could learn anything about welding or motors. They could find a way through life if they knew which way to go. The rookies were to be trained by Megan Gondet, who had worked for Parker before going back to work for Tony the previous year. Thomas was one of the newbies, and she told him not to do anything crazy, but to focus on being more productive. But Thomas had done a really stupid thing. It was back at the yard that lead mechanic Kevin Beat noticed something wasn't right. He was working on the trucks that were needed for the Paradise Hills Blitz. Where was the fourth truck? It turned out that Thomas was in charge. The trouble was that truck number 4 was broken, too hot, and couldn't be used. Kevin marked cars that needed repairs before they could be used with lockout tags. What a stupid thing Thomas did. He didn't care about the tag, and it wasn't even signed. Thomas made a big mistake for a first-timer. It was a big deal to take a truck with a lockout tag on it. Thomas was putting the engine at risk, and Tony now knew about it. Thomas had a good chance of getting sent off, but it didn't happen. He was told by his boss to get back in a truck. He gave the new driver another chance, but this time in a truck that was in good shape and had been signed out. The newbies were full again. More trucks were better. We saw Tony having trouble with water and his dredge, but he wasn't the only one who had trouble with water because of a mistake. Parker has his fair share of water issues. In his case, he almost lost all of his wolf cut pay, a mining site that is now underwater. Parker was looking for a pay streak in the 4-acre wolf cut on the far side of his Alaskan claim. He hoped that it would bring him at least 1,000 ounces this season. The group was trying to get to pay dirt 30 feet below, but they had to dig out 1,000 yards of extra material. 4 more feet would bring them to the water, and then it would be 30 feet to the rocks. But it looked like it was cooler than it really was. It would be very hard for them because they were working next to a pond. Frozen mud was the best option because it kept the water out. Recruit John Baudry was told to deal with the mud and keep the water out. But it looked like the cut was pretty wet. They called their boss to stop things before they got worse. It turned out that the mud got worse as they opened up more places. They still hadn't cut out even a fifth of the hole. There is an old pond next to the wolf cut. There was only a small berm between them. They dug down and found frozen ice that stopped the water from getting in. Now, it let water from the pond seep through the berm and fill the cut. Soon there will be a lot of water in the area. There was a need for action to save the day. They thought getting a pump would be the best thing for them to do. Parker's plan to stop the water was to dig a pond into the ground at the cut's deepest point and put in an 8-inch pump to clear it. After setting it up, they had to wait until the next day. You might be wondering what went wrong with the plan now. The plan as a whole was good and seemed to work, but how could you choose a pump to drain that much water without first making sure it works and fixing any problems it might have? The next day, everyone on the team went for a hike to check out their nice, dry wolf cut, but they were about to get a big shock. Where did their pump go? It looked like the pump was gone, and instead of a cutting that was completely dry, they found a lake. The pump system had broken down, filling the cut and putting the pump 4 feet below the water level. $500,000 were about to slip through their hands. The pump was so deep that they couldn't even walk up to it. Tyson had to pull a small kayak out with a chain in the excavator to get the pump to dry ground where they could work on it. The question was why they didn't work on it the day before and save time and money. Mark Fors, the foreman, said that the debris was blocking the suction filter at the end of the hose, which caused the water level to rise and cover the whole pump. He had to disassemble and repair the engine and come up with a plan to protect the pump from more flooding. This could have been done the day before, which would have saved them the whole night. His wolf almost got cut by this mistake, but Parker also did something shockingly stupid, and he almost had to say goodbye to Big Red. Parker's horrible mistake. Parker had finally realized a lifelong dream by digging his own Klondike claim. But with only a year left on the water lease, he only had one session to find all the gold on the huge 115-acre property. It only took him a little over 8 years to grow his Alaskan business from 2 people to 17 people and millions of dollars in sales. Dean, his foreman, quit, so he had to do some things as a foreman to get the company going. He was now in charge of everything as the manager. It made sense for him to do it because he knew more about the process than anyone else on his crew. The Chester Cut was being mined by his team. His mechanic, Mitch, was taking care of the big machinery, fixing the trucks, and getting them ready for work. Bree Harrison, who was operating the loader, was moving gold-rich pay dirt through Big Red and getting rid of the useless process rocks and dirt. Brennan Ruock put the dirt that Bree was going to use through the wash plant. There was no standing foreman to be seen during any of this. Everyone was working on their own jobs. He still hadn't shown up to tell the team what to do that day. They were already weeks behind schedule. Things would go a lot better if Parker showed up and stayed there the whole time. Parker showed up in the end and helped the team out a bit. The fact that Bree was running the whole business by herself made her look stressed. Because of this, Parker chose to get into the fuel truck and help get things fueled so that she could keep going. But Parker made a huge mistake at that point. One I won't forget quickly. He promised to help Bree, but instead he got sidetracked and looked for any gold that might still be in the places that had just been dug up. He had always wanted to do more panning on the floor that the guys who were pulling the pay had left behind, because he wouldn't stand for anyone being left behind. As the standing manager, he had to be there at the start and end of every shift to go over the days and nights' plans. He was in charge of sluicing and cleaning and had to plan how the plant would move next. There were 2 times a day when he had to make sure everything had fuel. It was a lot to handle. However, he didn't do these things. Instead, he went off to look for extra gold when his team really needed him. There are results to everything you do, and the mistake had its results. The whole plant shut down. The pump wasn't putting out any water, so Big Red's pre-wash was full of dirt. It was too dangerous to keep going because the pre-wash was about to boil over. Bree had to stop everything before it got worse. The harm might not be fixable. Why wasn't there any water? Not enough power. Yes, Parker said he would feed everything, but he didn't. Big Red was now down. It would have saved a lot of time and money to do something so easy. He messed that up, though. About $2,000 worth of gold is left in the ground every hour that Big Red is down. To be fair, it had been a long time since he had to deal with operations maintenance. There have been mistakes made by miners, which has cost their bosses money and property damage. Parker's team made a big mistake that cost him a lot of money. Big fuck up. Mitch and Brennan had a hard time moving Big Red a week ago, but they made a mistake that cost Parker a lot of money. Now, Aaron had to make sure that Slucifer didn't die the same way, which would have cost Parker more money. The team had recently seen a lot of rain, which was very scary because getting paid while wet wasn't fun at all. It always made things worse. In the beginning, Aaron worked for Parker as a truck driver. Since then, he has shown that he is good at driving a loader and is now in charge of Parker's most productive wash plant. He was by himself with the wash plant that day and did something very stupid. He made a big mistake because he had already done that stupid thing. He was thinking about how lucky he was to have the job when he dropped some wet pay on the conveyor belt, which was a big problem. It had already been a month late for Parker on the Indian River, and now the wash plant was full. Aaron ran back as fast as he could to turn it off, but he wasn't quick enough. He put wet pay into the hopper, which then slid down the smooth running belt, clogged the roller, and stopped the conveyor. He needs to finish letting go of it soon so that the plant can be moved. The shutdown took time, and each hour cost more than $5,000. Aaron and JM finally got rid of all the wet pay on the rollers. Now the plant should fire up and start working again. The truth, though, is much worse. The plant wouldn't come to life. They heard a strange beeping sound instead, which they didn't understand. Aaron knew, though, that the plant would be down for longer than they thought. That meant more money was lost. He chose to talk to his boss about it and see what he could do. Porter, on the other hand, was very busy and needed more time. Instead, he told him to go find Shane. Aaron hoped that Shane could fix the plant with one magic touch, but when Aaron got there, Shane found something that Aaron didn't expect. The belt was not attached to the motor, so it was broken. What a problem that was. It was impossible to turn the belt because the heavy wet pay had broken it. Aaron couldn't stop letting his stupid mistake bother him. They worked on the plant for 2 hours, and Shane fixed the broken belt during that time. Even though the plant finally got back up and running, the damage was already done. It was already late, and Aaron's stupid mistake cost Parker important time. Say what you think about these shocking mistakes these skilled workers made. Tell us in the group.
Embarking on a journey beneath the rugged terrains and fierce determination of the Gold Rush series, we unveil the glittering treasures that have left us in awe. Join me as we delve into the remarkable world of Tony Beets, Parker Schnabel, and other fearless miners, and witness their most exhilarating gold finds that have defined the very essence of discovery and ambition. From heart-stopping moments deep within the earth to the euphoria of striking it rich, these are the extraordinary tales of gold that have captured both our imagination and the very spirit of the hunt. Tony Beets and Parker Schnabel's and other best gold finds on Gold Rush. They face trials and triumphs on the road to this Olympic gold. Tony spends more money on gear in order to have his most productive season ever, while Parker's staff strives to increase their gold output. Both are determined and confident in their ability to succeed financially despite setbacks like broken machinery and lengthy road construction. The search for gold in the ancient miners' tailings pays off for Tony, while Parker's home is threatened by flames. But they both strike gold and far exceed their season targets. Tony is still committed to producing 9,000 ounces next year, and Parker is excited about the prospect of acquiring additional mining land. Gold miners like Tony Beets and Parker Schnabel, among others, share their greatest gold finds and experiences with the research team on the popular reality show Gold Rush. The Winchester lads are under pressure to impress Tony Beets with the efficiency of their wash facility, and must act quickly to do so. The strut of the plant causes a minor problem, but in the end they are successful in setting it down on the pad. However, they find that a supporting leg necessitates rearranging the sluice boxes, prompting John to construct an addition. Despite the difficulties, they self-repair everything and are now prepared to run pay. Knowing that taking risks is integral to the mining industry, they eagerly await the first scoop of pay dirt. After 25 straight hours of equipment operation, Tony Beets' crew is hopeful that they have delivered gold and broken the curse. When the gold is weighed, they find that they have 6 ounces, which is worth almost $11,000. As a result of this achievement, they are more motivated than ever to keep digging for gold. At the same time, Parker Schnabel departs for Fairbanks, leaving foreman Mitch to set up 2 plants in 5 days. Mitch intends to optimize their gold extraction process by dragging the sluice fur onto a big area and installing the super stacker. The crew is frantically preparing the sluice to flow gold before Parker returns from Alaska. A 120-foot super stacker gets hooked up and arrives at the pre-wash. Parker's staff likes the arrangement after processing valuable ore in the wash plants. Parker updates the workforce on his operation before stripping and building a plant pad in Alaska. Parker may mine the entire 90-acre runway with both wash units. A conveyor fails and an engine blows. Even though Parker's other wash plant, Big Red, has been sluicing easy street cut pay all week, yielding over $290,000 in gold. The group is happy to have exceeded last year's ounce total and will keep working hard. Tony Beets and his team are under pressure to break records this season. Their shaker deck shuts down twice, infuriating them. The wash plant is hard to run since they can't discover a 2-foot section of damaged C-channel. Despite the challenges, they innovate by welding the C-channel back into place so the material may be processed. Now that they can process the tailings, they may hope to find fresh gold. Parker Schnabel is optimistic about the season's early start and generating enough gold to cover their bills. Monica and their granddaughter bring cheer as the Beets family evaluates the week's triumphs and setbacks. Gold Rush gurus like Tony Beets and Parker Schnabel discuss their best gold hauls. Tony said the old-timer tailings made almost $310,000 when run. Parker said they found $145,000 in gold in 2 days. This week, about $460,000 in gold was extracted, more than double the same amount last year. They are happy with the results and expect financial and gold success. Fred Lewis and Brandon Clayton share resources to improve output in another scene. They believe they can increase output and profits by working together. Fred and Brandon's plant feeding loader had a tire blowout, causing downtime that could exceed their quota. The tire was fixed, and they continued working quickly. Mitch decides to clean up after 2 days and is pleased to see gold in the riffles. Fred and Brandon's partnership will be tested before their first gold weigh with Sandra and Andrew from New York City. The future season should benefit from their 19 ounces of gold every game while running less yards. Fred's largest gold grab and the chance to raise production by 50% have thrilled Tony's Beets and his employees. Tony's preparations were derailed by frozen ground and a big frost block blocking the conveyor belt, resulting in costly downtime and lost gold. Tony is unfazed and working hard with the 80 pup to get his season back on track and reach his gold goals. Tony and his staff had completed sweeping and scrubbing their mats and run. Tony strictly forbids his staff from walking on the mats. The Beets found $328,000 in gold despite downtime and lost gold, bringing their season total to over $2.3 million. Parker Schnabel is having problems bringing in 2,000 ounces of gold and worries he won't have enough to send his crew home. He must find the high-grade pay layer before winter, but he is 800 ounces short. Rick is surprised when Troy Taylor offers to sell the land to him for 150 ounces of gold. Rick should seriously consider the offer because he has spent a fortune on machinery and is struggling to make a profit. Rick recruits veteran ironworker Kyle Lawson to manage both wash facilities. Kyle manages the plant despite his fear. They are holding their breath hoping this clever strategy would work. They also made some remarkable gold discoveries on Gold Rush. Over $500,000 worth of gold, 219.8 ounces from Monster Red and 95 ounces from Rocky, were discovered by Tony Beats. As a result of Raleigh Valley's largest goldway ever, Parker Schnabel makes a significant financial commitment towards the purchase of more acreage. Mining tycoon Tony Beats is also in Kano attempting to break into uncharted territory. Test holes he digs show possible gold deposits. In general, these gold miners are engaged in some really promising work, and they have some very lofty objectives. Tony Beats and his staff are using a ball with a strainer to separate gold from soil in a new mining operation. They are pleased with the lengthy pump they utilize to speed up the procedure when they find fine gold. Tony is encouraged by this discovery and has discussed growing the firm with his family. Parker Schnabel is pleased with his gold weight, which beat last season's record. Parker will keep mining despite the season's challenges and make the best of it. Parker Schnabel and his colleagues seek to maximize their resources in Alaska to find better soil. Parker calls in his loyal right-hand man, Mitch, to help clear overburden and keep the process running smoothly as they rush to reach 700 ounces of gold. Parker moves as much as feasible with Mitch's help despite machine repairs and a labor shortage. As they overcome challenges, the crew's collaboration and determination shine through. Parker Schnabel and Tony Beats want gold. Parker's crew must collect 700 more ounces to move Big Red to Mud Mountain. After upgrading his gear, Tony is more driven than ever to have his best season. Tony struggles with equipment, while Parker relies on their road expansion to bring him there. Despite the obstacles, they remain driven and confident in their capacity to succeed and profit. He'll make up his gold ounce deficit and protect his off-season investment. Tony is under pressure to supply gold after the buyer for his fleet of barges dropped out at the last minute. This season was the Beats family's most successful for gold production, despite the loss. Tony still hopes to reach 9,000 pounds next year. He also investigates pioneer mining waste. There may be some gold left, and since gold and petrol costs are low, now is an excellent time to look. Tony invites the crew together to learn about the hill and mine's history. After finding a wooden sluice box, they realize that only half of the gold was collected this way. Tony wants to dig into the tailings and find themselves. A sample is tested with a trommel to confirm gold presence. It's free money, so they'll transfer it to New Zealand for processing. Later, he and his loved ones head to Paradise Hill to find out if the old-timers' tailings turned up any riches. Tony needs 177 ounces every week to reach his 3,000-ounce season target. Mega Cut pay dirt processed through Mike's trommel produced 4.22 ounces of gold, worth $7,400. They decide to keep operating the tailings facility after Tony's intuition proved correct. The Premier Wash facility is a high-stakes gamble for Parker Schnabel and his crew because he needs the money to acquire land in Alaska. They had trouble at first due to water leaking, but managed to get the plant stabilized. Before the season is out, they want to have found enough money to stock up on weapons and invest in new territory. When Parker Schnabel's house is threatened by flames, he must deal with a dire situation. He leaves the mining operation to return home and assist his evacuating wife. Now Brennan Rule and Colt Foreman must manage day-to-day business. However, conflicts emerge as Brennan strives to maintain order and discovers poor work from the team. Brennan and Parker make up following a fierce dispute. Despite the difficulties, Parker is resolved to finish the season strong and earn enough money to purchase further mining property. With a final tally of 7,504.9 ounces of gold, the team sets new benchmarks and surpasses their best season ever. Be sure to subscribe for more thrilling updates of treasure hunting. As we near the end of the season, Tony Beats has his own set of problems to solve. He has yet to reach his ideal weight and is out of fertile ground in the Mega Cut after 400 ounces. When Tony punches a hole in the wall, water rushes in and floods the final nook of the Mega Cut. Tony hopes to establish a new market known as the Upper Cut in order to save the rest of the season. However, the ground becomes a soupy mess after heavy rain, which presents challenges for Tony and his crew. Tony is unfazed by the obstacles in his way and insists on continuing his search for rich gold deposits. Another setback for the crew was the destruction of their rock truck. Despite this, they are able to get the problem resolved and go back to work in short order. Tony's time to earn 3,000 ounces of gold this season is quickly running out as winter approaches. After the last load of dirt has been processed by the plant, everyone congregates for the season's final gold weigh-in. They missed their target by a hair, but nevertheless managed to produce 3,030.26 ounces, worth almost $5.6 million. Tony has his sights set on next season, and he's positive that, with the right brakes and a water permit, they can increase their output. You won't believe what researchers just discovered. Click on the next video to find out more now.